It's that time of year again where the internet will try to convince you that you should leave the leaves on your grass this year instead of raking them up. Let's talk about it. This comes around every year, and lately it's been picking up even more steam, and that's people trying to convince you to leave the leaves wherever they fall because it's going to be better for nature. And there are a lot of compelling arguments as to why people may want to leave leaves, but for most homeowners, this actually isn't the right thing to do. Now, the first major issue I have with this is that most residential properties are not capable of decomposing leaves properly. You see, out in the forest, whenever the leaves fall to the forest floor, there are all kinds of enzymes and specialized bacteria and fungi and isopods that do a really good job of quickly decomposing and breaking down those leaves and making them available for the trees to grow the following year. But unless you happen to live in a forest, all those little microorganisms and critters don't exist on your property to break those leaves down. And so what will happen is those leaves are just going to sit there all winter long, staying pretty much the same as whenever they fell off the tree. So either they're going to end up being covered by snow if you live up north, and then once the snow melts away, they're still going to be there. Or if you live somewhere that doesn't get covered in snow, they're just going to blow around and end up piling up against a fence or shrubbery or somewhere where the wind takes them. Next is leaves are really, really bad for lawn grass. If the leaves do stick around on top of your lawn grass, what it's going to do is it's going to create a dark and damp environment that is a good breeding ground for fungi and bacteria that might actually harm your grass. The simple fact is, dark and damp environments are not where grass likes to grow. Now, for those that think, well, the leaves are going to decompose and then that's going to create a richer soil or nutrients for my plants. Aside from them not decomposing properly, leaves actually aren't very rich in nutrients to begin with once they fall to the ground. You see, by the time those trees drop those leaves, they've already transferred most of the good nutritional value that is inside the leaves back to the stems of the tree so that way it can feed the tree. So once those leaves drop down to the ground, it's pretty much just cellulose that's falling down. My last issue with leaving the leaves where they be is it's probably going to make you a bad neighbor. If your neighbors have gone and picked up the leaves off of their lawn and then you leave yours only to have the wind carry it over to their property, they may not be very happy with you. Okay, so enough with the negativity. What can you do with all of those leaves that fall down? My number one piece of advice is don't send them to a landfill. That's the worst thing you can do is to put them in plastic bags and then take them off with the regular trash pickup. What you can do with them, one of the things is to compost them. So either find a place on your property where you can pile them up. Ideally, you will shred them or mulch them before you pile them up, or see if your city has an organic compost recycling program where they could take that to their facility and recycle those leaves and turn them into compost. Another thing you can do is you can shred them in place. If your mower has the option of mulching leaves and you don't have too many leaves, you can just run your mower over them, chop them into little small pieces, and allow that to drop down to the lowest level of the grass where the root zone is. And by chopping them up more finely, you've got a better chance of having them be able to break down and decompose. Or my favorite option is to mulch them and bag them and then use them in other areas on your property. So if your mower has the ability to chop them up and then put them in a container or a bag, then you can take them around to your perennial gardens or your flower beds or around the base of your trees and then use that finely shredded leaf litter as a really good mulch to protect the roots and to help conserve moisture in your flower beds. Another really great use for those leaves is by doing something called composting in place. So once you have built some new raised beds, you can actually fill up the lower level of those raised beds with the leaves, and over time they will decompose underneath your vegetable soil in those raised beds and help enrich that soil slowly over time. So don't leave them sitting on your grass, but do use them in other places where it is appropriate on your property.